the prices of goods and services will remain high the further away one goes from urban centres, because this government has failed to spur economic activity in all the rural centres. The SME policy has absolutely failed the people of Papua New Guinea. The 4.5% inflation, Mr. Speaker, in 2025 will have a knock-on effect to investments, savings, loans, pensions, insurance, consumer spending, employment rates, government programs, tax policies, and interest rates. In short, Mr. Speaker, inflation will have a pervasive impact on the whole economy and affect the people of Papua New Guinea. Now, we understand that there is no silver bullet when dealing with inflation, but it requires an acute understanding of how things work. And from this unmitigated rise and fall in inflation and the lack of the Treasury's ability to effectively show fiscal discipline, we expect that inflationary pressures will continue and continue to exacerbate the cost of living crisis in 2025. Of particular concern, Mr. Speaker, is the nexus between inflation rates and the exchange rate depreciation. This is in the budget estimates presentation, and I quote, "Underlying inflation was high at 4.4% in the third quarter of 2024, 3.1 percentage points higher than the third quarter 2023, reflecting exchange rate depreciation of the United States dollar and the Australian dollar. This is the effect that the IMF's crawl-peg depreciation is having on inflation. Treasury, in short, Mr. Speaker, has lost control of inflation and currency depreciation in the country. In 2025, inflation will triple, and the exchange rate will continue its downward spiral, meaning that the government will have to pay at least 7% to raise money for the budget. In addition, the public are also facing not just higher costs of inflation, but a higher interest rate in the Kina facility rate going up to 4% from 3.1%. This will make borrowing and investments more difficult. Papua New Guinea, Mr. Speaker, remains vulnerable to external shocks and global market forces, and the protracted cost of living crisis for our people, especially in the rural communities where the bulk of our people live, will continue. A key example, Mr. Speaker, is to bring all members of Parliament to consider, with empathy, the plight of our people. Let's consider an average Papua New Guinean, Mr. Speaker, that's earning 500 kina a fortnight. This person buys a bag of rice. Thanks to inflation and the mismanagement of the economy by the treasurer, a 10-kilo bag of rice now costs 100 kina. If you buy tin fish and other basic household items that cost another 200 kina, this individual, Mr. Speaker, is left with 200 kina for rent, transport, other meals, and sundry expenses, including diapers. This creates a vicious cycle for our people who are enslaved by loan sharks, charging them 50% or 100% interest on loans on the black market. This is the reality of Papua New Guineans that we all know and can relate to. Trying to feed a family, Mr. Speaker, on 500 kina per fortnight, under these cost of living pressures, trying to pay for school fees and meet social obligations as is the custom in PNG culture, is not achievable for the bulk of our population. This is a sad indictment on the Marape government's economic management. Third, the Bank of Papua New Guinea, our central bank. Mr. Speaker, we have lamented about the encroachment of the Treasury Department on our central bank in the whole of 2024. Treasury's encroachment of the Bank of Papua New Guinea is counterproductive and it is illegal, Mr. Speaker. Now, simply put, the good Treasurer must take note of this. Based on the equation of exchange, money supply times the velocity of money equals price levels times GDP. In short, Mr. Speaker, that means you increase the increase of the money supply is the cause of inflation. In 2018, the Temporary Advance Facility, the TAF, was 200 million kina, and in 2024, under the auspices of the good treasurer, it increased tenfold to 2 billion kina. Mr. Speaker, the printing of money or the use of quantitative easing as a tool for resourcing the budget is elusive, and it promotes insidious inflationary effects by directly increasing prices through an increase of the money supply.
Make your money. Stop printing it.
Quantitative easing, Mr. Speaker, printing of money at the central bank is lazy economic management by the good treasurer. It's the easy way out. This will continue to erode the Bank of Papua New Guinea and its independence, Mr. Speaker, and its ability to effectively implement monetary policy and control inflation. In short, if we don't stop the encroachment between Treasury and the central bank, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to exacerbate the cost of living crisis experienced by our people. There needs to be a separation immediately.
Absolutely.
Mr. Speaker, now I bring the Honourable House to the debt burden in 2024. Mr. Speaker, in 1975, when our founding father, the great Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare, took the country to independence, from 1975 to 2018, 43 years, Mr. Speaker, our national debt increased to 25 billion kina. That's an average of 1.72 billion kina per annum. All honourable members of the House, this should put things in perspective. In the 5 years that the Marape government took office under the Prime Ministership of the Honourable James Marape and his apt and hard-working treasurer, the Honourable Ian Lingstaki borrowed a total of 37 billion kina. Wow. That's roughly 7.4 billion kina per annum. Before the Marape government, honourable leaders, and through you, Mr. Speaker, the national debt was 25 billion kina in 2018. After the Marape government took office, 37 billion kina was borrowed, increasing the national debt to 62 billion kina. This is unprecedented and reflects an insatiable appetite for debt. In 2024, Mr. Speaker, our debt to GDP ratio was 50.5%. For every kina in revenue generated, 50.5% of that money goes towards debt repayment. In 2025, this will be reduced to 47.4%, and we take note of the Treasurer's good work in amending the Fiscal Responsibilities Act. The high debt to GDP ratio will make it difficult to invest in our people, education, health, and infrastructure. Being over-leveraged, Mr. Speaker, will reduce our liquidity and make us less competitive. Mr. Speaker, I take the House to capital investment budget. The fundamental reason, honourable leaders, through you, Mr. Speaker, for debt financing should be to invest in infrastructure that will create jobs for our people and be a catalyst for economic development. This is where the capital investment budget is so important, and this is where it comes in. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, there is little information on what was not spent from the 7.6 billion capital investment budget, when the actual expenditure was 4.7 billion. So the difference, Mr. Speaker, of 2.9 billion kina of outstanding funding in the capital investment budget remains unexplained by the good treasurer.